Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast of the Class. Breakfast of the Class today, dedicated in loving memory of Alan M. Feder, Lilu Nishmat Elia Mordechai Ben Yechiel, Achashverosh Yartzai, by his daughter Andrea Roost, as well for the Rabbi Shlomo Farhi today, and the continued health of Chana Bat for year of Breakfast in the Class, dedicated in loving memory of Nishmat Ruth or Friday Bat sponsored by her family. The second week now, Breakfast in the Class is sponsored by Edward Sofer Lidishmatem. Loving memory of his parents, Ray and David Sofer, David ben Moshe ben Naima and Simcha bat Chana. The Refuah Shemav Elian ben Deborah Sonnenberg, and as well dedicated loving memory of Vivian Bailey Lidishmat Hayavat Shoshana, sponsored by her nephew Aaron Bailey. The learning for this entire week is dedicated by the Torah Center, Diamond donors Ruth and Raphael Fuzailov, in honor of our soldiers in IDF that have bravely fallen, as well as for the recovery of those injured. Chazak u'Baruch. Okay, let us begin. I want to share with you. Forgot the item. Let me share with you, Be'ezrat Hashem, something that I think is an interesting perspective. The pasuk says that when Esther HaMalka was taken to the palace of the king. So, in Esther, Magedet Moladeta ve'et Ama. Esther would not share, she didn't share at Moladeta, her birth, for in other words, where she was born, ve'et Ama, and her people. What does that mean, where she was born? In other words, she didn't tell anyone who her family was. Ve'et Ama, and her nation. Kasher tziva alea Mordechai, like Mordechai commanded her. Vet ma'amar Mordechai, and Mordechai's words, Esther osa, Esther would do kasher hayeta be'omna ito, like she used to be'omna ito. Now the word be'omna is a very interesting line. We find it also in the beginning when it says that he was omenet et hadasa. What does omenet mean? What does that word actually mean? So literally it means that he raised her, he brought her up. That's the word that's usually associated with the word omenet, okay? Now, this idea is communicated here that Esther was very careful to follow all of Mordechai's instructions. Kasher hayita, just like she used to listen to everything he would teach her and guide her, be'omna ito, when he was guiding her in person. Okay? Now, I just want to share with you something very beautiful on this exact point. We find, it says the Sefer V'Dibar Tabam, in the name of Rav Tzvi Kohen Kaplan, he says like this: when Eliyahu Hanavi was dying, his student came to him, whose name was Elisha, and Elisha said to him, "I want something." He begged him, "Please, when you die, I want I want to have that double the spirit that you have inside of you, I want to have when you go." Now, many ask, what a little bit of a chutzpah thing to ask your rabbi before he dies. Listen, Rabbi, I want to be double as big as you. Right? It's if you're as good as me, Chazak u'Baruch. But to ask your rabbi to be double as big as him, how does that work? Please only answer amen if you're listening to this live. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol nהיה baro. So Al Pi Kabbalah, there's a very interesting interpretation on this. Eliyahu Hanavi, we know it says, was a Gilgul. Who was a Gilgul from? Pinhas. Pinhas, who Eliyahu, that's what it says. But Pinhas himself, the Chachamim tell us that when he attacked, when he came to Kozbi and Zimri, and he killed them for their act of rebellion, so out of the great fear he was experiencing, so his soul left his body, passed away. Okay? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought back Pinchas at the time with the nishamot of Nadav and Avihu. Whole interpretation as to why. But Al Pi Kabbalah, therefore, Pinchas was brought back with the nishamot of Nadav and Avihu. There was a double spirit in Pinchas. And if Pinchas is Eliyahu, so when Elisha is asking, I want to be Pishnayim Beruchacha Alai, he's not asking to be double as big as Eliyahu. He's saying, Pishnayim Beruchacha, the double spirit that you carry, I want to carry it also. That's according to the Zohar. But I want to share with you maybe a little bit more of a simple, straightforward understanding. Maybe that's not so esoteric or mystical. Elisha was asking to be greater than his rabbi. Was his rabbi offended by that? Gemara says no. There's only two people who are not jealous in the world, says the Gemara. A rabbi of his student and a father of his son. Joe, you want your son to be as big as you or double as big as you?
As good as me. Better. Always better.
Better?
Always better.
For a minute there I thought you were saying the wrong thing. As good as me and better. We want our kids to outstrip us. A guy told me, Rabbi, you gotta be careful. You know, your daughter, your son, be bigger than you. I said, better be careful. That's what I'm hoping for. Right? If you made whatever successes in your life coming from here, but then you gave your kids a platform from here, and all they did was match you, then they did nothing. So you want your kids to do double. Eliyahu is not offended that Elisha wants to outstrip him. Not offended. Very happy. But look at his answer. His answer is very cryptic. He tells Elisha, what you're asking for is it's not an easy thing. You're not asking for an easy thing. However, Im tireh oti lukach meitach, if you see me getting taken from you, yehi lecha chen, you'll be blessed with grace. Your answer will be blessed, will be answered with chen, with grace. Turns out, Elisha, does he see Eliyahu taken from this world? Yes. If you read, it's one of the most beautiful moments in Tanakh when Elisha sees Eliyahu Hanavi being taken in a chariot to Shamayim, so to speak. It's obviously spiritual elements that we're talking about over here. But he sees Eliyahu passing, transitioning from this world to the next. So Elisha understood that he would have chen, that he would be blessed with the answer to his prayer. But the whole situation seems a little bit strange. And I want to share with you a beautiful interpretation of this in the name of Rav Tzvi HaKohen Kaplan. He says like this. Eliyahu Hanavi was telling Elisha, if you see me taken from you, not if you see the moment when I am taken away, when I move to Olam Haba. No, that's not what he was saying. Eliyahu was saying, if after I go, im tireh oti lukach meitecha, when I've already been taken from you, if you still, tireh oti, you still see me, then you'll be double as big. Then you know you'll have chen. Why? A teacher can only teach his student when he's sitting in front of him. So as many hours, days, weeks, months, years you have with your rabbi, that's how much time they can impart their wisdom and their Torah to you. However, there are some students who do such a good job of understanding, of learning with, of studying with their rabbi, that eventually they know, they understand exactly what their rabbi would have wanted from them. Exactly what their rabbi would have said in any given scenario. Because over time, you have an avatar of your rabbi sitting in front of your eyes. And you know exactly how he would advise you. You know exactly what your father would say, what your grandfather would say in this situation. I'm sure in business moments, there are people who would think to themselves, you know something? I remember what my father did once when he was in this situation. Or, even if I've never seen him in this situation, I could hear my father's voice telling me, my rabbi's voice telling me, my wife's voice telling me. Your wife's voice, you don't have to imagine. You hear it yelling from... Lukach meitecha. Elisha, if you still see me after I'm gone, then you'll have pishnayim beruchacha. Because your rabbi will be teaching you even after he's gone. What a magnificent concept. Where do we find this idea? We find it by Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef is in a difficult moment, down in Egypt, being seduced by Eshet Potiphar, and Potiphar tries every single day to weaken his resolve, to convince him to move forward with this dastardly deal. I bet you didn't think you'd hear the word dastardly and coming down to breakfast. But there you go. Breakfast and the Wordle. No, not the Wordle. It's 5 letters, 6 letters. It's a crossword puzzle, sorry. My friends, I want to share with you the power of what this idea can mean. Of Eliyahu's words, Im tireh oti lukach meitecha. If Yaakov could see, if Yosef could see, in that difficult moment, he could see the visage of his father looking at him, staring at him, then he would be able to maintain his level and refrain from sin. I want to ask what that looks like to someone like you, or to someone like me in our own lives. A person that represents the highest moral standing in your life, a person that loves you, a person that you don't want to let down, a person that if they were here in the room, you wouldn't even be thinking of doing the wrong thing. That, my friends, is the concept of Im tireh oti lukach meitecha. Therefore, says Rav Kaplan, Esther, she grew up with Mordechai. Her parents had died by childbirth. She's this orphan girl raised by Mordechai. She knows the right thing to do because she grew up in that home. But my friends, what does it feel like when you're taken from your home? What does it feel like when you're here in the harem with all these other girls and everyone is now competing to be the most beautiful? Everyone wants to be taken as the queen of the country. Understand that the influence of Mordechai was strong enough that even after she's in this macabre proceedings, this crazy competition, she doesn't get swept up in the competition. Now, there was a whole item in the news recently. There's some sort of game on TV. I don't know where it is exactly, which stations it is, but it's a game on TV where you have all these different contestants. And then, in the final moment, they give the opportunity for one of the people to choose how much he's going to take and how much he's going to leave for everybody else. And one of the contestants winds up taking almost all the money, leaving over barely anything for the other person. And the person who took all the money, knowing that he's not shared it with any of the other people, is crying. And the internet world was abuzz with this idea. Should he be crying? Is he fake crying? He took this from everybody else. He didn't share it after doing all these, things together. Would he have had opportunity? How would it have been if the tables would have been turned? Would he have been happy if they would have taken and not shared it with him? Is he crying because he's happy? Nobody knows. But what I'm trying to bring out here is that people in these moments actually behave in radically different ways than they would behave without the pressure. The pressure on Esther is unimaginable. Every girl has their own team to do their glow up. Okay? What kind of bisamim are you bathing in? What kind of makeup do you want to wear? Which dress brings out your eyes? All the craziness. But what does the pasuk say? When it talks about the girls that are being taken, I want you to hear The words, it's so interesting. It's something I actually never noticed until I saw brought down this year in one of the books. The pasuk says, that when all the girls were brought, ubehagia tor na'ara v'na'ara lavo el hamelech, when the turn of every girl came to come to the king, so they would come. Ubazeh ha'na'ara ba'a el hamelech, and with this would the girl come to the king. Kol asher tomar yinaten la, any jewelry. I want to wear a hope diamond, no problem. Lavo ima מבית הנשים עד בית המלך. בערב היא באה. They came. That's what it says. However, ובהגיע תור אסתר בת אביחיל, when it came Esther's turn, her shot at unimaginable power and wealth, לא ביקשה דבר. She asked for no jewelry. She asked for no makeup. Whatever he told her, whatever the official told her she had to wear, she wore. But here's the word. Vatilakach Esther. And Esther was taken to the king. Every other girl, Ba'a el HaMelech, she came to the king. But Esther, even after all of the time, all the prep, all the hype, all the interviews, all the Instagram influencers, Esther had to be taken forcibly to the king. Because the training, the teaching, the morality of Mordechai, Kasher hayita be'omna ito. She was as she was when she was with Mordechai. She figured out how to do what Elisha did, where you would see me even after Lukach mi'itecha, I was taken from you. My face is still here. My messages still resonate and still ring in your ears. My friends, but it doesn't end during the time of the competition. Even after she becomes the queen, even after she's elevated, still she maintains her level of commitment. Now, let me just share one thing, because I was thinking a lot about this. It's amazing that Esther did that. Amazing. But the question you have to ask is, how did she do that? How do you raise a child that when the child is not with you, they're still with you? I remember one of the rabbis in Yeshiva Ketana. My son goes to a school, Yeshiva Ketana of Manhattan, and they are masterful in their chinuch of children, really. Something else. How much they care for the kids, how much they think about the children, it's just unbelievable. But I'll never forget when I was having a conversation with one of the rabbis, when my son was 8 years old. He said, my goal is not that Yitzchak should come to shul and pray when he's 8. My goal in teaching him when he's 8 years old is that he should still want to come when he's 15. When he starts getting to the rebellious stage. When it starts to become difficult, because at a certain point, kids move from being the ones that are knocking at the door in the morning saying, is it time to get up yet? You know those? Well, some of you don't, but, right? Is it time to get up yet? To teenagers that just want to sleep all day. How do you raise a child that when challenges start to come, they still want to do what you taught them to do? How do you teach in a way of kasher hayita be'omna ito? How do you do that? How do you have chinuch that outlives you? That when they open up their own homes, or when they're off in yeshiva or seminary or college or in high school or on the street, hanging out with their friends, how do you manage that? How do you communicate that? So I think the word itself is really teaching us a tremendous lesson. The word I pointed out was omna. When he was raising her, when he was guiding her. And David was, and Mordechai was, omenet et Esther. What does it mean he was omenet? Omna. The root of that word is the word uman. And what is an uman? Where's my moed katan, guys? What does uman mean? Maaseh uman or maaseh hedyot. Sorry? Uman is an artist, a craftsman, an artisan. Someone who does something in a professional way. Hedyot is simple. Or like Rabbi Lawrence said the other day, hedyot is the root of the word idiot. I'd never heard that before, by the way. I wonder how that makes all the Kohen hedyots feel. Anyway, because all Kohens other than Kohen Gadol are called Kohen Hedyot. I'm just trying to imagine that that's what Hedyot meant. I'm not sure if I buy it, but I think it's funny. My friends, understand this. When you're raising children, one of the ways that you raise a child is treating the child as a child. But really, there's a whole other way of practicing chinuch, of teaching and of educating. And that is that you speak to a child, but you talk to the adult inside of him. The pasuk says a beautiful idea. Chanoch la'nar al pi darko. Teach a child, educate a child, right? Al pi darko, according to his way. The end of the pasuk says, Gam ki yazkin, even when he gets old, look at this a minute. He's not going to turn away mimenu from that path. He won't turn away from his education. Classically, when you read the pasuk, that's how you read it. Chanoch lanar al pi darko, teach a child according to his way, and then that way, Gam ki yazkin lo yasu mimenu. When he gets old, he won't turn away from the education you gave him as a child. But I wonder if there's another way to see the pasuk. Chanoch lanar al pi darko, teach a child according to his way, where he is, what he's going through. But also teach a child gam ki yazkin. Teach a child also how he should behave when he becomes older. Not the result of teaching a child is that when he's older, he doesn't turn away. But teach a child and also teach the adult in him. I was saying this the other day on Shabbat. Marshall Aronow just lost his father. And one of the things he said struck me so deeply. He said that when he was 7 years old, and his father had no money, his father would drive around in the car with him and say, "You see that building? The building is this amount of money. I could get a mortgage for this amount of the payment. The rentals coming in would cover this amount." So he's explaining the whole deal to a 7-year-old. Okay? And then he asked the 7-year-old, "What do you think I should do? Do you think it's a good deal?" Son is like, "Well, just buy the buildings. I don't have any money." "Well, how are you going to buy it if you don't have money?" "Well, this is how I'm going to structure the deal. You could buy buildings without money. If this is the loan, and this is the rental income, and this is the down payment, and this is you could do it. This is how we're going to do it." My friends, I don't mean that you should make children adults before they are. That's what the pasuk is saying. Chanoch lanar al pi darko, according to the way of the nar. But at the same time, you could speak to the adult in the child. You could communicate ideas that when a kid is still a kid, are imprinted on their consciousness. There'll come a time when you have to do a deal. And not every time do you have to spend capital in order to get a deal. He taught his child that day that there's a way to buy something even if you don't have money. I don't know if the kid will remember the ibitar. I don't know if the kid will remember that. But the kid will remember that point. I remember asking my children, do you think mommy will enjoy this piece of jewelry? I want to get her something for the holiday, for her birthday. Which one do you think she'll like? I don't need their opinion. Also, I'm not sure their opinion is better than mine. What am I teaching my child? Not taste in jewelry, but love. Showing love. Spending money. But it's so expensive, Abba. Yeah, but your mommy's worth it. What are you sharing? You're talking to this kid in 20 years from now. The word uman means a craftsman. Back in the day, people would take their children, they would bring it to a craftsman, and they would have the person take them on as an apprentice, and then that person would teach them the trade. Whether it was a shoemaker, whether it was a candlestick maker, whether it was a baker, whether it was a butcher. The person learned how to have a trade so that when they became older, they had a way to live. Gemara says that if a person doesn't teach their child a trade, they're raising a robber. Because the kid has no idea how to take care of himself. Where's he going to get money from? My friends, that's what uman means. That you teach a child something enough times, enough ways, that when they do something on their own for the first time, they are already a master. Now that sounds crazy. Could you possibly master something without ever having done it? The answer is Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. What did he teach his student? Go like this. Put your hands in circles. Paint the fence. Up, down, up, down, up, down. All day, every day. What does a guy think? This is Chinese, marketplace behavior. Child slave labor. What was he teaching him? Paint the fence, wax on, wax off. He was teaching him all the movements that will be necessary when someone throws a punch or when someone tries to kick you. And then, after he complains, what are we doing? We're wasting our time. Mr. Miyagi throws a punch, and the hands that had gone up and down so many times and round in circles blocked the punch, blocked the kick, created muscle memory. He'd never been in a fight. But his limbs had been conditioned in a way to respond to something. Yosef had learned from Yaakov enough that when the moment came, a moment he had never been in before, what happened? He could see his father saying, paint the fence, wax on, wax off. Esther is in the harem, and she hears Mordechai. Time to pray. Tzedakah, tzniut, Shabbat candles. These are the first things she does. Achashverosh gives her 7 servants, and she names each one of them the day of the week, so she could remember what day is Shabbat. This is Esther. Kasher hayta be'omna ito. We need to make our children masters. How do you do that? When you learn your children, you start to understand what's a challenge for them. Some children's, their challenge is that they don't like to be weird. Don't ever underestimate the power over a child of these words. It's weird. So awkward. Awkward is the word of the decade. If something is awkward, something is weird, kid's not going to do it. So I want to just be clear. If you teach your kids to sing in the streets on the way home on Shabbat, and your kids say, stop singing, it's so weird, you're so awkward, and you raise the volume, because a dad's job in this world is to embarrass his children, and your kids learn not to be embarrassed of who they are, to sing a Shabbat song in the streets of the city, then when someone offers them a cigarette, and this feeling comes up, I don't want to be weird, they already know that it's perfectly fine to be weird. That's omna. You're teaching your children to be master craftsmen. And you're finding the things. If they're shy, and you hire someone to help them sing, you put them in a choir. It's not just that you gave the kid a voice to be able to sing. It's that later on, when someone's encouraging him to do something that's the wrong thing, or he needs to stand up for a kid that's being bullied, but he's shy, you already gave him a voice. Kasher haita be'omna ito. That is the idea. Gam ki yaskin. Speak to the adult. Think to yourself, what will his challenges or her challenges be when they become older? You have a kid that gets whatever he wants. What's that kid going to be like in a marriage? Disaster. You have a person who not only is he selfish, he's always negative. So what do? You're always trying to brighten his day. Always want to make things good for the kid. That kid is going to be hampered in his lifetime. You know why? Because end of the day, he doesn't know how to make his own life better. He doesn't know how to change his perspective. Because every time something negative came up in his life, you fixed it. Because you're a loving father. But you're loving only a child. You're loving a child that will remain a child. You're loving a child and teaching the child to live in his parents' basement until he's 50. Why? Because you never let him turn into a person who's capable of rendering negative things into a positive narrative. But if the kid sees you do that, you taught him a skill as an adult. You trained him to be a master of his craft. My friends, one thing to do is to ensure that your child has an actual craft where he makes money. But a harder thing to do, and maybe a more important thing to do, is to teach your child to be a master of life. Not so he'll be able to make a living, but so he'll be able to live a life. Kasher hayeta be'omna ito. Be'ezat Hashem, we should be zocheh to be able to raise our children with this power. Baruch Hanei Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Charanya ben Akasham v'yatzak l'shokos gotzeh lefi kabayot l'mitzvah shona ma'atzeh l'kol the Torah ve'adir. Immediately after Rabbi Ibrahim will be sharing some words of Torah. Kaddish. Amen. Amen.